All right, let's move on. We can take a short break for a minute first. Next, we will discuss the seventh stop of our journey, Boston. This took place from August 9th to August 16th. It's August now, just like it was then, so it has been almost 31 years. First, let's look at the itinerary for this trip, and then discuss the section Teaching Series in Boston. After departing from New York, we traveled about 4 hours by car and arrived in Boston, the cultural center of America. As we saw, Washington, D.C. is the political center, and New York City is the center for business and economy. Boston, however, is the cultural hub. It is one of the oldest and most culturally significant cities in the United States. It has both a European feel and an American flavor. In truth, many ancient buildings in Europe possess a deep cultural heritage. Since the history of the US and Canada only spans a few centuries, they have a more modern, New Age feel to them. There isn't much else to it. Even in their architecture and some museums, there is very little that is truly indigenous. Aside from a very few artifacts from the Native Americans, there isn't much. Boston is not as busy and fast-paced as New York City, but more conservative and traditional. Every city has its own distinct style. Just look at Chengdu, Beijing, and Shanghai. Each place has its own unique atmosphere. In Chengdu, for instance, whenever the sun comes out, everyone starts drinking tea and chatting. But you won't find that in other cities. In Hong Kong, everyone walks at an incredibly fast pace. Each city has a different character and cultural heritage. Boston has seen American history from the colonial period through the Declaration of Independence up to today's growth and prosperity. The city has truly undergone such a transformation. Boston was founded in 1630 by wealthy Puritan settlers. Those early settlers came here to build their community. Most of them had studied at Cambridge or Oxford University and had received a traditional higher education. Oxford University is one of the oldest. When I visited, I was told that it was founded around 1096, which is quite early. During the period between the early and later propagation of Tibetan Buddhism, around that time the UK had what is considered the second oldest university in the world. Oxford University has a very long history. The oldest university is actually in Morocco, the University of Al-Qarawiyyin in Africa. Don't underestimate Africa, they have some truly remarkable things. It was established around 859 AD, making it the oldest school in the world. The settlers' initial intention was this, to ensure their descendants could receive a good education in this new land. Harvard University, the first college in American history, was founded in 1636. At that time, places like China and much of Asia had nothing like it. Peking University was founded in 1898, right? It used to be called Beiyang University or something. Some say it was the predecessor of Tianjin University. Regardless, it's only been around 100 years. By comparison, Harvard was established way back in 1636. Later came the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and others. There are actually many schools in that area. Boston is truly a college town. They have so many. I really wanted to visit MIT before, but when I got there, the buildings had no distinctive character at all. They all looked like simple prefab houses. Their most notable feature was a certain Western style. Even the windows were tiny. MIT and other schools there have been ranked as high as third in the world for a long time. All these universities were founded one after another. There is a very strong cultural and academic ambience here. His Holiness stayed in Boston for a week. The scheduled teaching events were as follows. Actually, I didn't get a lot of materials here. As I mentioned earlier, the English text below is basically translated according to the general meaning. The photos of His Holiness in Boston are very interesting. His state of mind at that time was very remarkable. There's even a photo of him with a doll or something. Some great masters enjoy playing with little deer. These stories are quite famous. Tuesday, August 10th, Vajrakileya Empowerment. Ticket $30. Wednesday, August 11th, Guru Dorje Drolo Empowerment, also $30. Thursday, August 12th, Khandro Naingtig. His Holiness gave the Khandro Naingtig empowerment there. Last year, Khenpo Namdrol wanted to give this empowerment himself. He asked me about the Khandro Naingtig empowerment. I explained the Satna to him. The ticket was $30. Friday, August 13th, Peaceful Manjushri Empowerment, also $30. They were all $30. Now $1 is about 7.20 RMB. Converting $30 at that rate, 3 times 7 is 21. Wow, that's quite a lot for just one session. Saturday and Sunday, August 14th and 15th. Teaching on placing Buddhahood within reach. The ticket for this was $125. Over those 2 days, it included breakfast, meditation, lunch, discussion, and teachings. Even the reception was included. But how did they calculate it? It was probably around $60 per day, including meals. Monday, August 16th, King Geza Empowerment, also $30. The prices varied from city to city. In some places, the prices were a bit higher. Empowerments sometimes cost more than teachings. The location for these events was Dharma Datu's Ashoka House. During the whole trip, there were 68 teachings and 40 empowerments, as we summarized before. So if you calculate for 68 sessions multiplied by 7.23, it's at least 10,000 RMB just for the teachings. If you add the empowerments, there were over 100. With over 100 sessions, the cost was quite high. Attending every single session described in A Journey to the West was certainly not easy back then. Next is the section, the need to pay for a Dharma event. In the West, almost every Dharma center charges for teachings. This is quite hard for Easterners, especially Tibetans, to accept. In our culture, the Dharma teachings are not something that can be sold. If a teacher were to ask for a fee, people would likely find it quite laughable. In fact, it is not that they are making profits through Dharma activities. That is not the case. It's just that the environment for sharing the Dharma in the West is different. In the West, Dharma centers receive very few offerings. In the East, at least within the monasteries, many people come to offer incense and make donations. Monasteries rely on these faithful followers to sustain themselves. That is how a center is maintained. When I went to Hong Kong, I saw that everything was handled very formally, operating through legal contracts. For example, if I were to open a Dharma center today, I would need to know how many members I have. As the abbot of the center, I would sign a contract with each person for tuition fees. They agree that upon joining the center, there is a certain monthly membership fee. The annual and monthly dues are all clearly calculated and accounted for. This is how they are able to survive. Western Dharma centers receive very few donations, but to maintain their normal operations, they must cover expenses like rent, utilities, and maintenance. There are also various taxes to pay. In Western Europe especially, taxes are extremely high. So they might start by buying a building for a center, but many struggle afterward. It is the same for many Christian churches nowadays. In many of our Buddhist centers, once the Rinpoche has left, people quickly lose interest. Eventually, they can't even afford the electricity bill. Members begin to withdraw one after another. It becomes very difficult for many centers to continue. In contrast, monasteries in Tibetan areas never have these worries. As for the monasteries in the Han region, as long as an old master is present, things are usually fine. Some of our Dharma friends are now taking over various temples. Some take over large ones, while others take over small, quiet ones with just the teacher and a disciple. Even with nothing else, it is very peaceful. At least the utility bills are not an issue. I've asked the abbots of some poorer temples, and they said utilities aren't the problem. It's just that they have very little funding for rituals. Furthermore, when a center invites a guest teacher, the center must cover travel, food, and accommodation. The center has to handle this itself. If they don't charge any fee at all, the center can hardly survive in the long run. I have taught at the academy for many years and have never charged a fee. But when we held events in Hong Kong or the World Youth Buddhist Symposium, participants had to pay for their own meals. A small amount was collected back then. How much was it? Does anyone remember the fee for the World Youth Buddhist Symposium? 300. It was 300 for 5 days, right? One time it was 300, another time it was different, plus 2 sets of clothes. When we were in Hong Kong, did we charge for the Tara Dharma assembly? I think it was $100 or so. Your memories aren't great either. Writing a memoir might be a bit of a challenge. Undeniably, this raises the threshold for hearing the Dharma. If someone's economic conditions are poor, they may miss the opportunity to receive the teaching. Such things seldom happen in the land of Tibet. I remember when Choje was in Washington, there was a Chinese college student in the audience. After the first lecture of placing Buddhahood within reach, he ran out of money. To ensure he could attend the next 2 lectures, I paid $70 for him in private. Later I heard he had returned to China and wanted to thank me, but we never had the chance to meet. That's how it was. So sometimes we have to adapt to this system. Charging for events is something we must adjust to. At first I didn't quite understand it. When we returned from India to Hong Kong, they charged a fee, and His Holiness found it a bit strange too. I think I mentioned this in recollection of the time gone by. Although our customs are different, looking at it from another point of view, many people pay more attention to the teachings simply because they have paid for them. They treat it as a significant event, because it cost them something. It's like with a Buddha statue. The one you buy with your own money feels quite different from one received as a gift. You might think I paid $1,000 for this, then you are much more careful with it. Even if the value is the same, if someone just gives it to you, you might not value it as much. The same can be true when requesting the Dharma. If an individual has paid for the teaching, they naturally pay great attention to it. For example, if a teaching costs $100, you might think, well, I've paid my $100. I must stay focused and not doze off, otherwise it would be such a waste. But if you haven't paid anything, you might nap today and nap again tomorrow, feeling it doesn't matter. Thus, both the attitude of receiving the teaching and the impact it brings would be worlds apart. So it is difficult to say whether charging is right or wrong. When spreading the Dharma in different environments, one must follow the local customs and respect the local culture and habits. This is what truly matters. The sun that never sets. Let's discuss this section as well. We have a bit of extra time in today's lesson. On August 13th, when His Holiness was conferring the Dugchin empowerment of peaceful Manjushri, he spoke the following words: "Every time I am about to leave a place, those with heavy feelings and strong devotion cannot help but shed tears, as if it is a separation between a mother and her son." Many practitioners are like this. Actually, many of us rely on such faith. Wherever His Holiness went, it was like this. Even today, there are many people who deeply miss and weep for a guru they have a connection with. Constant remembrance and tears are themselves expressions of deep faith. As a matter of fact, it is not that we have had only this temporary gathering, but we have established close and stable connections that will continue to exist life after life. When I was giving teachings at Rocky Mountain Dharma Center recently, a verse of prophecy came to my mind. How does it go? The sun, universally benefiting all, rises behind the mountains in the east and shines to the west. Ignorant lower mountains, do not be haughty. When you are covered by the shadows before you, though you are free from the sunlight temporarily, eventually you will be completely exposed to it. This was mentioned in His Holiness's prophecy at Mount Wutai. It has many layers of meaning. The sun that benefits all rises from the eastern mountains, and its light shines upon the entire world. To certain ignorant lower mountains, it says, "Do not be arrogant. You might block the light from yourself and stay in shadow. You may have temporary freedom in the dark, but eventually you cannot escape being reached by the sunlight." This also contains prophecies about certain individuals, but primarily it refers to the Dzogchen of peaceful Manjushri. Though this terma was revealed in the East, beings in the West will also receive it. So to those who are arrogant, do not think your wrong views and prejudices are of any real value. In the end, your mind will also be illuminated by the wisdom of Manjushri. That is likely the general meaning. Just as the rising sun cannot be obstructed by the mountains, this Dharma will gradually spread throughout the entire world. From the signs and indications, we can see this is true. Therefore, I shared this explanation with everyone publicly. His Holiness also mentioned this once before. Usually, when I am going to do something, be it big or small, I will first pray deeply to my Guru and deity for a long time. Never will I engage in something without thorough consideration and careful observation. But this year is an exception. I came to the US just wondering whether I could bring some benefit to the local people and whether I could propagate the Dharma. As I said in New York, I made this trip not for money or higher social status. Rather, it is through the great compassion and blessing of Lord Manjushri that I have found myself here in America. The conditions for His Holiness's trip were indeed very special. His primary purpose in the US was to propagate teachings like the Dzogchen of peaceful Manjushri. I believe many of our Dharma friends came here also due to the blessing of Manjushri. It happened almost spontaneously. Some initially came for travel, others just to have a look. But the blessing of Manjushri kept you here. Now you find it hard to leave. Staying can also bring its share of frustrations, failing exams, intense competition. Life in this world presents all sorts of challenges. But it's all right, things are actually quite good. I feel overall it is quite satisfying. The world will never be perfect. If it were perfect, it wouldn't be this Saha world, right? Relatively speaking, being here, you have all encountered Mahayana Buddhism, received the blessing of Manjushri and His Holiness's lineage. With such a connection to His Holiness's teachings, our path of study is truly blessed by great karmic affinity. A master like His Holiness, who truly received the blessings of Padmasambhava's body, speech and mind, possesses incredible power to bless and connect with us. Otherwise, why would so many people come without being asked? You probably know that in many temples today, there are fewer and fewer Buddhists and monastics. Yet here, no matter how hard people try to hold them back, they keep coming. Even when managers, police and guards say, don't come, people still insist. This is the power of His blessings. Even though His Holiness left us over 20 years ago, He still exerts such a pull and has such influence. In a sense, this is truly inconceivable. I suppose having a crowd can be annoying at times, but it can also be a very good thing. At the very least, they can see this mandala of liberation through seeing, behold, the vast gathering of the Sangha, make 3 prostrations and chant Amitabha. If they can recite the King of Aspiration prayers just once, perhaps for these poor sentient beings, that is enough for this life. They have wandered in samsara for such a long time. If they don't plant a good seed of virtue now, they might just keep wandering endlessly. His Holiness said he was brought back to the West by Lord Manjushri. Many of us might be the same. The resident students of our academy, unwittingly 10 or 20 years pass by, and it feels like the blink of an eye. Time goes by so fast here. I have been here for nearly 40 years now. I don't even know where the time went. I blink and nearly 40 years have passed. What did His Holiness say? He said the good timing for me to benefit beings in the West has ripened. I believe it is Lord Manjushri who brings me here out of his blessing. From your side, you are willing to give up the opportunity to earn money and come to meet me and receive teachings. Americans actually care a lot about their daily income. They really do value it. But His Holiness mentioned that this too is the power of Manjushri. You all have your sources of income. Some have very little income and face difficulties at home, though it's a bit better here. The only reason for us gathering here is because we are cared for and blessed by the compassionate Lord Manjushri. This time, as you have all received the precious teaching of this Dharma, it is important for you to engage in actual practice and further share it with many others as best as you can. This is my sincere hope and also your own responsibility. If you are able to do so, both you and other beings will benefit immensely. So regarding this Manjushri teaching, His Holiness asked everyone to spread it. Looking at history, when the British Empire ruled the world, it made this declaration: in our territory the sun never sets, the empire on which the sun never sets. His Holiness mentioned the British, but actually back in the 16th century, King Charles V of Spain was the first to say this. He didn't rule that many countries back then, but in the 16th century he felt that his Spain was an empire on which the sun never set. Later in the 18th and 19th centuries, the British ruled the world. With colonies all over the globe, they once again used this slogan. As long as we make joint efforts, we can also make the statement that the sun above where the practitioners of peaceful Manjushri dwell never sets. The conditions to support this statement have already emerged. I think we also mentioned this when we were teaching the Dzogchen of peaceful Manjushri. What does it mean? As you can see, when the sun sets in the US and you are about to sleep, practitioners in Asia wake up and start to chant the mantra Omarapa Tsa Nadi. And when we are going to bed and the sun rises in your location, you will continue to chant Omarapa Tsa Nadi. His Holiness's explanation of the empire on which the sun never sets is quite good. Therefore, this is a mantra where the sun never sets and a Dharma where the sun never sets. Therefore, I can definitely say that the sun never sets over those who practice this Dharma. It is almost 11 a.m. now. Most practitioners in Asia have not only gone to bed but fallen asleep. Boston has a 13-hour time difference from there. Between Canada, New York, and here, there might be a 1-hour difference in some places. When it is 12 p.m. here, it is around 11 a.m. there. But here, the Dzogchen empowerment of peaceful Manjushri is going on. This is the time we chant the Manjushri mantra. Tonight, when we lie down to sleep, it will be the time for disciples in Asia to chant the mantra. Indeed, whether in the Han region or in cities worldwide, there are so many people practicing this Manjushri Dharma. I will leave the US in a few days. In 2 days, His Holiness will depart. In the past, in Tibet, this was mentioned toward the end of the teachings. We didn't record every single day here. There was a great master in Tibet named Tsangyang Gyatso. In one of his songs, he said, "Drops of water and rain destroy letters written in ink. The unwritten images on the heart, however much rubbed, cannot be erased." This verse is from his many love songs. Tsangyang Gyatso's love songs were for a partner, but His Holiness interpreted this from the perspective of devotion. For example, if you write a word on paper with ink and even put a stamp on it, external forces of the 4 great elements can still ruin it. But the love and the Dharma transmission in our minds can never be erased. We should engrave them in our hearts like a painting. The Guru's instructions and the oral transmissions must be etched into our hearts, unlike words written on paper. Recently, many of my American students said, "Please come back to the US again." Although, from all points of view, I'm afraid I will not be able to make a second trip. I will never forget you. Whether or not I can return to the US, you must persevere in this practice. If you can actively engage in this practice, it is the same as if I came back personally. If we practice the Dzogchen of peaceful Manjushri well, it is essentially no different from seeing His Holiness. I've also shared the teachings His Holiness gave in Tibet, which we translated before. His teachings in the US are presented this time in A Journey to the West. Later, in Singapore, his teachings were tailored for the Han region. Many of his metaphors and methods focused on people from the Han region. If things go as planned, this may be presented in Moon and Water in a year or 2. As long as all my American students do not waver in your intention and devotion to the Dharma, devotion to the Guru and the Dharma, I will never change. Just like the sun and the moon never deviate from their own paths. The supreme Mount Meru is immovable and unchanging. The sun and the moon never deviate from their paths. We have a recording of this, right? Let me play it for you. In the end, His Holiness sang this verse 3 times in a prolonged tune as a final blessing to everyone. During the third recitation, Gyatral Rinpoche was dozing off. His Holiness called out, "Hey Gyatral, Gyatral." Later, everyone said that because the teaching was quite long, he simply fell asleep, and His Holiness saw it and called him. Let's play the third time again. Pay attention. All right, we will stop here today.
Padmasambhava Om Bandhangara Padmasambhava. Om Bandhangara Padmasambhava.